A few days ago, I started rereading the hit manga One Piece for about the 100th millionth time in my life. I've seen the anime and I'm up to date with the manga. And it's not an exaggeration to say that every single chapter, well maybe not episode, but every chapter is a 10 out of 10. There's reasons why it's sold approximately 470 million copies, but what I want to talk about are the One Piece games. Personally, I'm a big fan of the Pirate Warriors series, but let's forget about that for today, as I want to talk about an open world One Piece game. I'm not talking about One Piece World Seeker, as I've never actually played it. I'm talking about a true open world One Piece game, one that has you ride a ship across the entire One Piece world, visiting islands directly from the anime in a custom made ship with your own pirate crew. Of course a game like that would be great, but it doesn't exist, or maybe it does, I didn't do much research. But that's what I'm going to talk about. My idea for a One Piece MMO of sorts. Since MMOs have large maps, it would be perfect for the open seas of One Piece. But I'm getting ahead of myself, so there's a lot of things I want to discuss, and I'll probably forget some along the way, so let's take this as slowly as possible. But before I do, let's get a few things out of the way first. First of all, this is purely my opinion, this is all hypothetical and I have no intention of creating such a game, it's all just for fun. Second, I will be discussing potential spoilers for One Piece. I won't be talking about anything from the current One Piece arc, and I will try to keep everything pre-time skip, but there may be mentions of some islands or things that occur afterwards. So this is just a little warning. And finally, the most important point of all, to help explain some of my points better, I will be using my favourite software, MS Paint. Time for the history aspect of it. What is One Piece? One Piece is a manga that started its run in Weekly Shonen Jump back in 1997 and it's still going today. That's a lot of years, I can't be bothered to work it out. It follows the adventures of Monkey D. Luffy, the man who dreams to become the king of the pirates. That is obviously my oversimplified version of the story. If you wish to know more, I highly recommend watching either the 900 episodes of the anime or reading the 900 chapters of the manga. Can't link you to where you can read or watch it, but I'm sure you all know one place where you can watch it. And I would, if I was sponsored by Crunchyroll, tell you to go to there, but I'm not. And One Piece is about pirates, so you know, you can probably figure out the rest. Throughout the course of this video, I'll be showing what I've made. I made like a crummy little game that's mainly only here to just show the fact that I do have a degree in game development, and I didn't waste 3 years of my university life to suddenly do failing YouTube stuff. Although I do try and have focus on performance during this video, my game is just proof of concept and will not care about performance at all. It's here for entertainment purposes, and I just need to make the video longer and put some filler in so you're not just staring at my crappy drawings the entire time. So finally, with all that out the way, all the boring intro stuff, let's finally get into it. Although I said I'd get the boring stuff out of the way, there's still more boring stuff. Allow me, someone with a degree, to explain to you what an open world game is. Open world games have existed for quite a while. I would do research and tell you exactly the figures and statistics of when they first came out and who did it first, but I don't really want to tell you because I can't be bothered to do the research. So I'll just explain what it means to be open world. Open world often refers to a game that has a large-scale world that the player can explore at their own pace. Who would have guessed? The player is usually guided as to where to go, but not told what they have to be doing at the exact moment in time. Basically, it's a play at your own pace kind of thing. You can spend the entire time completing side quests before fighting the final boss, or you can just go straight to the final boss and do the main quests. There are some great open world games out there, such as Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Skyrim, The Witcher, Horizon Zero Dawn. There's tons. I could just name tons if I didn't have this page open next to me that told me a list of open world games. But in terms of what we want, we're looking for a One Piece open world game, and one does exist, as I mentioned before. One Piece World Seeker came out back in 2019 and was met with very mixed reviews. Why was it met with mixed reviews? I couldn't tell you as I've never played it. But what I've seen, it does look pretty boring. Watching gameplay made me think it's just pretty generic and just like a traditional open world, nothing too special. But it did get me kind of worried, thinking that I couldn't possibly do better than it with what I've got here. And I know for a fact I probably couldn't, but it's still worth sharing anyway. The only thing I've got going for me is that I don't have to actually prove that I'm better, because my whole life isn't... I'm not making this game that my whole life is set upon, if you know what I mean. So let's just jump into the world of One Piece with even more history, because I just kind of want to talk about One Piece. For our One Piece game, we're going to want actual islands from One Piece. We want to research the history of One Piece, figure out all the stuff about the islands, all the places the main characters have explored. We want all that good stuff. We don't want some fictional world created for a game only. We want the fictional worlds that are created for the main story. We don't want no spin-off. We want the main shit. We want the good shit. The map of One Piece is kind of confusing, so I'll try my best to explain it all. When I was researching this, I just remembered... I know when I read the manga again, I just remembered how confusing it kind of is. So in One Piece, there are 4 blues that make up the sea of the world. North Blue, South Blue, East Blue, and West Blue. Oceans are split by something called the Red Line, which traverses the entire world from north to south. But forgetting about the Red Line, there's also the Grand Line. The Grand Line is a giant sea current. The Red Line splits the Grand Line into 2 parts. Its easy part is known as Paradise, and the second half is known as the New World. The Red Line is a starting point of one's journey to enter the Grand Line. There's also something called the Calm Belt. The Calm Belt is no wind and no sea currents, but it's a nesting ground for sea kings, which are basically giant monsters. There aren't any good complete maps of every little detail, but here's a map. That's it. That's the history. That's the ocean. That's what we want. I hope you understood that, because I'm not telling you again unless you skip back in the video to rehear my rapping. So let's talk about our world that we're going to be showing off for the purpose of explaining. Let me explain to you what kind of scale we're on here. The entire One Piece series after the Alabasta saga has been set in the Grand Line. This just goes to show how big the Grand Line is. Some of these places take days and months to get to on a boat alone, so it's fair to say the world of One Piece is much, much bigger than Earth. According to the One Piece wiki, which is where I get all my information from, it's been suggested that there are over 20 million islands in the world of One Piece, and according to the National Institute of Aeronautics and Space in 2002, there are only 18,307 islands on Earth. So the One Piece world is pretty massive compared to normal Earth, and then there's possible massive gaps in between our islands here. So travelling by boat in our game, we'll be spending our entire life at sea. We want to have like a proper pirate experience here. For all you One Piece fans out there, I'm just going to quickly skim over this. There is a correct way to travel through the Grand Line. Basically, you pick one of so many paths and travel down that path using a thing called a log pose, which is basically a compass that points to the next island once it has registered the current island you are on. Without this log pose, you die. The log pose points down the line, but all paths lead to one place, which is meant to be where the great treasure One Piece is. Now this is actually pretty interesting, because we can actually have this sort of concept in our game. I'm not going to make it, I'm just going to tell you about it. But having the whole point of maybe you could have a compass that would point to the next islands, you obviously need navigation. Obviously in video games your navigation consists of just your map with points and it's telling you where to go, but if we wanted to do hardcore mode, maybe we could have it so they have to actually find maps of the world and cover every island and figure it all out themselves. It could be pretty difficult, but it could be... some people may find it fun. To briefly get back on the topic of this demo that I'm going to be showing off, I'm just going to be showing off my attempt to recreate a small aspect of the open world and then proceed to talk about things that I don't possess the talent to actually show off. Basically things I can't make, but things I can only talk about, because I'm not a talented artist or 3D modeler, and even programming, there's only so much you can do just by purely knowing how to program. You need like a proper geniuses, you need a whole team. Anyway, this is the whole point of this, is to share my ideas. But let's get into some more technical stuff. Let's talk about how open world games work in terms of programming. To start off, open world games are really big, so it's going to require a lot of processing. But luckily for us, over the years, some real geniuses have come up with a few good techniques that we can use to give this illusion of an open world. First off is the most known one, which is occlusion culling, or some people probably pronounce it occlusion culling, because I almost pronounced it that way once. Basically, what this means is that we will only render what needs to be rendered. Everything that appears inside our camera's view will be rendered. Maybe get a slightly bit outside as well, just in case there's any quick turnings of the camera. Who knows? I don't know I don't know the technical parts, but anything outside the camera will not be rendered. It's a pretty simple trick, and it's actually really easy to implement in a lot of modern day engines. Unity has a built-in culling system which you can just pretty much set up. The second one is LOD, or level of detail. LOD changes how certain objects look depending on how close the camera is to them. Since there is no point in having super detailed models for something that is really far away, we can use LOD to switch out a low polygon model. Basically, when you're close to something, you want that high res stuff, but when you're far away, you don't need it, so may as well just make it a cube or something like that. These two are pretty important, and mainly LOD, because in islands there's going to be a lot of individual objects that you'll want to render, and if you have to position, if we have like 20 million islands or however many it was, there's going to be a lot of individual objects on them, so obviously making these things invisible and like one polygon or even just invisible will do so much for performance. We don't want to render all them stuff at once, your computer would explode. Next, let's talk about a game that's pretty much what we want, literally almost. In terms of open world, this game does everything we want in our game. The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker is the perfect game because it has everything we need. It may only feature 49 islands and they aren't that big, but this is running on the GameCube. So how does Wind Waker do it? How does Wind Waker manage to render all these islands as the player moves around? I can't actually tell you the exact answer, but I can make an educated guess based on my previous experiences. And I'd say the boat is a major factor. The boat's speed is really slow, and this is so it can actually render things around you and doesn't have to force you to stop. It gives you that sort of seamless feel. Because if you're going too fast, the game may have to force you to stop while it can render. You don't want to do that because it will take you out of the experience. Another thing Wind Waker does, which you may not have noticed, is scenes. In game development, scenes are a large area, I guess is the best way to put them. Usually when you see a loading bar, it's loading a new scene. I can't really explain it better than this. The Wind Waker tries to keep as much possible outside of the ocean scene. The ocean scene is our main overworld, so we don't want that to be too populated. The ocean scene does have a few islands that are large, mainly the starting outset island, but there's also quite a few islands that are just small and they take you to other places. Dragon Roost Island and the Forest Haven are two examples. The main area is inside a loading zone, so it takes you outside the main ocean scene and into this new one, so they don't have to tax the ocean scene with this inside area that you wouldn't even need in the ocean scene in the first place. So what about our ocean scene? We know in our fictional One Piece game that the ocean will have a large number of islands, but in One Piece, all, if not most of these islands take place outside. There are very few that can be done inside. There's actually very few opportunities here for extra scenes. However, we can get pretty creative. Ultimately, our end goal is to have a seamless transition as possible. We want to make it so you can't tell that this scene has been loaded in. So how do we achieve this? Well, we can have our main ocean filled with some models to represent our islands, preferably of the same height and scale and size, so everything, they look like they're actually there, but obviously they won't actually be there, they'll just have a lacking of objects. So now that we've got all our islands just sitting around in our overworld, how about we actually put the actual islands themselves in their own scene? We can build each island in an individual scene and load them when needed. Now if you've been paying attention, you're probably thinking that I've contradicted myself, as to go to a new scene would mean to load something which would stop the game and then it would look seamless. But it's possible we could get around this with more creativity. Our engine of choice, the Unity engine, has a feature to load multiple scenes in one. This means we can have 3 scenes in total. One for our player, which contains the player himself and his ship. One for our ocean, and which has all our islands on it. And one for each individual island. When we need to, we can load in the island over the ocean, deload the ocean, and hopefully that'll work. When leaving the island, we just do the reverse. Get rid of the island, load the ocean. which only the ocean could actually be quite taxing. I don't actually have no idea. One problem that could occur is we may have to make it so that the locations of all the islands in their scene is at the same location in the ocean scene. So if the island is located at X 100, Y 0, Z 100 in the ocean, in its own scene, everything would have to be located in the same. As I said, this is purely theory. No way of knowing if this will actually work. I've tested it out myself very briefly, but I'm not a master at knowing if it's performant, because obviously on our scale, in terms of our scale, it probably won't be. But this is all for fun. So let's move on from the open world aspect. I'm pretty sure we're all sick of me talking about the ocean, and let's talk more about some other potential features. I'm just gonna quickly go through some of these. So let's start with NPCs. NPCs, or non-playable characters, will work the same they do in pretty much every game. They'd have a schedule that they follow every morning with very little interaction with the player, probably a few lines of dialogue and so on, but that's about it. Some could give the player quests that require them going to other islands, but it's pretty generic stuff for an open world game. Quests often are there to help the player explore. One thing I didn't mention, but will do so now, is a day and night system. Makes sense for day and night to eventually turn, so it will. That's pretty much all I can say. NPCs will sleep at night and go to their houses. Maybe more creatures can come out at night. And maybe even more ships will be out in the seas. This all depends though on the type of game we're making. Obviously if we're doing an MMO, which I think sounds like a good idea, then the NPCs will probably be quite static. Mainly they won't stand still, but day and night will still change. And maybe there still could be new creatures come out at sea. I think it would be pretty cool if you were just at sea and then suddenly get attacked by a giant sea king or something like that. That'd be pretty cool, I think. Let's talk about combat. One Piece is pretty cool for combat, but we'll get into that later. So as I was saying, if we go for an MMO, we could have it so the player could pick a side. It would be a navy, pirate, or maybe even be a third faction, that maybe be a revolutionary, which probably a lot of people will pick, let's be honest here. But depending on that, depends on who you fight. Maybe you're battling against another pirate, or maybe you're fighting a navy ship out in rough waters. But the question is, how will you fight? Since it's a One Piece game, you'd have to have these things called devil fruits, which allow the users to have some mysterious powers of like maybe transforming into a creature, or their body becoming rubber, or made of fire, made of ice, made of magma, made of light, made of all sorts of cool stuff. But how would that work in an MMO? Obviously you're going to have your bar along the bottom that you cast your moves from, but I personally think that'd be really boring. Because One Piece definitely needs cool action, and the best One Piece game with action, in my opinion, is the Pirate Warriors series. A combination of light and heavy attacks to beat up your enemies whilst mixing in special moves is perfect for One Piece needs. Pirate Warriors games deliver on action. Of course, we'd also have ship battles. One thing Pirate Warriors needs, Pirate Warriors 5, put some ship battles in there. I think it'd be pretty cool. Pirate versus pirate or navy versus pirate, who cares? It'd be super cool to just have ship combat. Because obviously, in our MMO, the player's going to have their own ship. They could upgrade their ship, obviously. They could add extra cannons, make it stronger, make it faster. Maybe they could have some cool weapons. There's some really cool weapons they could have in One Piece. They could have the giant cannon on the Thousand Sunnies front. Or maybe, if they're a devil fruit user, maybe the best plan of action would be to jump aboard the enemy ship and fighting. We definitely want our ships to have the true scale. Because in One Piece, the navy ships are absolutely massive. We even got a little video here of what I did with the ship. I just made it absolutely massive to see how cool it would feel to walk around. It feels pretty cool to just walk around my very boring ship. Let's get two really quick ones out of the way. First, let's just talk about the game's art style. We don't have to talk about much here because the games have a really good art style already. They've got the anime-esque art style, which you see in pretty much every anime game, the cel-shaded kind of look. I've got no complaints with it. I love it. I think it works perfectly. Obviously, they could maybe improve lighting and stuff, but that's just comes down to performance at that point. Also, for music, for some reason anime games don't use music from the actual anime. They just make entirely new soundtracks. I assume this is probably some legal copyright stuff, but it'd be definitely cool to have actual anime music in the game that appears at times. Lastly, let's talk about the little things that could just add to the experience. One thing that'd be super cool is realistic sailing, having to manage the repairs of your ship when it gets damaged, having to raise and lower the sails, stuff like that. Also, One Piece is known for its pretty insane climates. The weather is unpredictable when you're sailing this ocean. There could be giant whirlpools, tornadoes, giant things that shoot you up to sky islands that will just destroy your ship instantly. Some pretty cool stuff. Characters from the anime as well. It'd be cool to just fit right in an MMO, you know, like you got these all familiar faces from World of Warcraft that everyone knows and love. Imagine that in One Piece. You get like your Princess Vivi from Alabasta, just you have to complete a quest for her. Who knows? There's so many endless possibilities with One Piece characters. There's at least like a few thousand of them that have been created over the years. Who knows? Ultimately, there's a lot you can do with a true One Piece open world games. The locations in One Piece are so super amazing, all with their own history and detail that makes you wish they were real. Thriller Bark, Marineford, Alabasta, Fishman Island, Whole Cake Island, even the giant elephant Zonesha. I probably butchered that. But imagine playing a game where you're just exploring out in the sea and you suddenly came across a large 35-kilometer tall elephant and you just wanted to climb up it to see the city on its back. Personally, I think One Piece would do so well as a true 3D MMO that I know I'd sink millions of hours into it. You could pick which hometown you wanted to start in, based around the starting locations of some of the Straw Hats crew, explore the ocean by yourself or get a larger ship and form a crew of your friends. Something that would take one hell of a team to bring in everything from One Piece, but an idea that shouldn't be thrown away. They could even continue to update it as One Piece still goes. One Piece still has like 5 years left, I believe. Obviously they can keep adding to it, add themed events, maybe some anime exclusive stuff. Just so much you could do. It'd be so cool to just roleplay as either a pirate or a marine. Imagine if there was a PvP server where you just were out in the sea knowing you could be attacked by an enemy marine ship at any time, and even taken to like impel down where you'd have to try and escape. But I'm gonna probably start to repeat myself, and ultimately that's the dream. It probably won't happen, and if it did, it would need one hell of a design document. But still, I think it'd be cool. What I created is kind of proof of concept, but not really a proof of concept. My little game is just me needing to fill time and actually doing something with my life, I guess. But my concept was intended for single player. And obviously, there's a lot more to focus on in seamless world travel in single player, because in an MMO, you don't really need to worry about traveling because there's always these loading screens everywhere. If you like fast travel in MMOs, when you're like flying over, you get a loading screen every now and then. Of course, everything I've mentioned is purely my opinions and thoughts. This video was a mess, and it's just something, you know, it gives me something to do. Just spend a day working on this. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I potentially could do more. Who knows? I've got other games I think I could potentially fix or improve. Not saying some need improving, but I definitely need to think some need fixing. Mentioning no names, Pokemon, you know, just saying. But it's just cool to think about stuff. I only did this because I wanted to see if a true open world One Piece game, like using the true scale, could work. Did I find the answer? Not really. But that's it. I also want to give a thank you to the One Piece wiki. An unbelievable record of where I got all my information from, and so much more. If you're a fan of One Piece, just reading the wiki in your spare time is so much fun. Just finding out all these things you didn't know before, all these little details, all these everything. It just so much. As a fan, it makes me tear up. I do, yeah. As I said, I do want to do more of these. So comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on a One Piece game. Let me know what I could maybe change on. And I promise you, I won't change anything because I don't have the budget to do so. Once again, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. All my links are down below. And yeah, goodbye. Visiting islands directly from or maybe it does. I didn't actually research this much. I just went with it, went with the flow. But what I'm about to talk to you about in when I get my words right. But in One Piece, all these islands take place outside. There's actually very few that can be done inside, and very few opportunities for these extra scenes. And you want to be... I don't know my own script. For all you One Piece fanatics out there, I'm just going to quickly tell you this. So there is actually a